Good morning. Thank you for joining the Poll Call sponsored by CenturyLink. My name is Dylan Keith, Policy Analyst with the Vegas Chamber. Before we get started, I'd like to go over some features of this call. If you're using the desktop or mobile Zoom applications, you may ask a question at any time using the question pane at the bottom of the screen. We'll answer as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. Likewise, you're highly encouraged to ask questions live. Use the hand raise button at the bottom of your screen. And as we open up for questions, we will call your name and unmute your line. Please ensure you are unmuted on your end, and please keep questions brief so we can get to as many questions as possible. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce Vegas Chamber President and CEO, Mary Beth Seawald.
Thanks so much, Dylan. We really appreciate everybody being with us today. I want to thank CenturyLink for generously sponsoring the Poll Call today. We're so grateful for your continued support of the Vegas Chamber, and we just would like to thank our friends at CenturyLink. Thank you, of course, to all of our members on the call who signed up to be a chamber advocate. We have absolutely had an outpouring of support this legislative session from members who have volunteered to be chamber advocates, and we can't tell you how much that is helping the Vegas Chamber amplify your voice to legislators in Carson City. So if you're still interested in being a chamber advocate, we want to encourage you to do so, and please visit vegaschamber.com and we will get you all set up. I also want to encourage you to attend two things. We've got Legislative Day coming up on April 6th. This signature event is open to all President's Club and advocacy members. We're going to go virtual this year because the state capitol is closed, as everybody knows. But it'll still be a great opportunity for everybody to hear from leaders in Carson City and to have those invaluable conversations with elected officials and, of course, policymakers. So there will be a link to register in tomorrow's rundown email. So you're definitely going to want to watch for that. The other thing I want to encourage everybody to attend is our Washington, D.C. fly-in. Mark your calendars for that now, because we're going to fly out to D.C. for this. It's September 20th through the 24th. So we're so excited to be back in our nation's capital to meet in person with you and with lawmakers and policy experts. So there are a lot of federal issues that affect Nevada: infrastructure, land, education, water, and trade. So the Chamber's DC fly-in is an absolutely outstanding way to help elevate Nevada's voice on Capitol Hill. So please join us for that. Go to vegaschamber.com for more information, or reach out to any of us at the Chamber. Also today, I want to thank our BizPac donors who are on this call. Your generous gifts to BizPac absolutely make it possible for the Vegas Chamber to support candidates and lawmakers who are committed to helping employers, employees, and of course, entrepreneurs. So I want to give a special shout out and thank you to our BizPac contributors who've contributed recently, that is Boyd Gaming, CenturyLink, Cragen and Pike, Omni Limousine, and Switch. Thank you guys so much for all your support. We really appreciate it. Paul's going to talk more in depth about all the bills that we have on the docket for you in Carson City. A couple of bills I want to point out, especially that the Vegas Chamber testified in favor of this week. SB 173 is the Back on Track Act. That provides special federal funding for K through 12 summer school. It'll also fund things like transportation, meals, and it'll also get teachers and staff back to work. So we're very optimistic about SB 173. Again, Paul's going to tell you more about that one. Also, AB 184 is a bill brought forth by Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall that provides for a small business advocacy office, provides a lot of new resources and things that, how important it is to rebuild our small businesses, because they're the engine that drives our economy. So we're also very optimistic about Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall's bill, AB 184. Again, Paul's going to tell you more about these, but just very optimistic about these two very positive bills. So now I'll turn it over to Paul Moradkhan. He's the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs, to share the latest from Carson City. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Mary Beth, and thanks so much for that update. And thank you, CenturyLink, of course, for sponsoring this series for our members. As Mary Beth indicated, we've had a pretty busy week in Carson City, and we're happy to provide updates to our members of what's going on in the state capitol, even though it's closed right now to the general public. As of right now, most legislators and legislative staff have received their first vaccine shot. And we do believe that this could mean that building could reopen potentially sometime in mid-April. That is still pending an announcement from the Legislative Council Bureau, or what we call the LCB. They're the ones that actually manage the building. So they will work with legislative leadership to see when that could happen. Obviously, if folks are being vaccinated and they are fully vaccinated, we believe that the building should open for transparency and access to our members on the amount of bills we're seeing. And we'll get into those bills in a few moments, but just wanted to give everybody an update about the building process. In regarding to some of the other processes that we're going through right now, this past Monday was supposed to be their first bill deadline. And the bill deadlines are part of the 120-day calendar. As our members know, the Constitution dictates that the legislative session can only go for 120 days. So within the 120 days, the legislators abide by a set of deadlines when bills have to be introduced, when budgets start closing, when they have to be out of the first House committee and the second House passage, and all those type of things. On Monday, they did extend the bill introduction by a week. That is pretty significant in the timeline. So that means that bills have to be introduced by March 22nd, or they won't be processed any further. Well, in 2019, they did extend the deadline for one day. We had heard some chatter there may be an extension, but I think a lot of folks were surprised that it was by a full week. So this week you've started seeing more bills drop, about between two houses, maybe about another 100 bills or so. But we expect a large bill dump on Monday. At this point, we don't think they're going to extend the next deadline on April 9th. That's first House committee passage, because it just causes a chain reaction with the rest of their schedule. So we'll keep folks updated, but know that first deadline is on the first, is on Monday. Typically, the deadlines are good days for the business community. Some of the more concerning bills may not get out, or some of the more frivolous ones don't get processed. So we always look forward to the deadlines because it usually helps us narrow down the portfolio a little bit. Just to share with our members where we're at in terms of the bill tracking. As of right now, the chamber is tracking 597 BDRs and introduced bills. As of yesterday, the team had testified on 42 bills. The chamber maintains one of the largest portfolios in the legislative building. And Mary Beth indicated she had testified on 2 bills this week, and we'll get into those bills in just a few minutes. So a couple of the bills the chamber is actively working on and there's quite a few actually on behalf of the business community that we have concerns about. As I indicated, we've testified on 42 bills, tracking almost 600. Out of that 600, there's about 50 to 55 bills that the chamber has deemed problematic to Nevada's employers and to the business climate that we operate in. And the issue is that it's not one specific bill that's going to be the end of the world for Nevada's businesses. But what the problem is the compounding effect of these multiple bills, from insurance to unfair trade practices to workers' comp, to limited liability, to tort repeal. I mean, that's what really dictates a state's business climate. And for employers who are members, of course, those are real hard costs that they have to address when they're hiring staff, if they want to expand, if they want to do renovations, if they want, grow their business. All those have hard costs to our members. So that's why the chamber really is that watchdog in the Carson City, is a fierce advocate on your behalf on these bills. As we shared with you previously, there's AB 45, which really does impact our insurance members with the insurance commissioner. We believe we've now come to a resolution on that bill. The bill originally indicated that the insurance commissioner could pull your license without a hearing. We had concerns about the due process. They've recognized that's a challenge. So that part of the bill is coming out, which is great news. AB 47 is the unfair trade practice bill, what they call it, but it really is a 3-part bill. It's non-competes, it's merger acquisitions, and it's healthcare provisions. We believe in the current draft that was heard the other day in the Assembly Commerce and Labor, we have come to a resolution on the non-competes where we preserve the use of non-competes for salaried employees in Nevada. If you're solely an employee receiving only an hourly wage, you will not be in a non-compete. Majority of our members don't use non-competes for hourly workers. They're mostly salaried workers or commission workers. So you will still be able to use non-compete in the current version for your commission employees and your salaried employees. AB 61 is in regards to price gouging. We've been going back and forth with the AG's office on that. There are some new amendments of drafts that have come out, so we're working through those right now because that bill will be heard sometime next week. But as drafted, the chamber is in opposition, along with some of our other trade partners like the Retail Association of Nevada. AB 190, it deals with employees and the right to use sick leave. As many of you know, Nevada has shifted to a PTO state with the passage of SB 312 in the 2019 session. AB 190 only applies if you offer sick leave to your employees, not paid time off. And it basically says if you offer sick leave, then you have to allow an employee to use sick leave to take care of a family member. So grandparent, parent, child, stepchildren. So it's a relatively narrow use of the bill. The chamber had opposed the bill last session when we were working on the other bill because we didn't want it compounding and causing confusion. But since most of our members gone to a PTO system, there'll be a very small impact, and it does not mandate sick leave. It just says who can use it for what reason. SB 75 is the unemployment compensation bill. The chamber was opposing the bill for two reasons, and we're working on amendments with DETA right now. It would adjust the formula, the way how the unemployment insurance tax is used in Nevada. The current proposal would increase that UI tax on members, which we have a concern about. Also, there would be a fiscal note from the school districts because 9, 10, and 11-month employees from the school districts want to be able to collect unemployment insurance for those summer months. Chamber has a philosophical problem with that because those dollars have to come out of the classroom. If you normally take a 9-month job, that's your decision. It should not be placed on the backs of children to pay for unemployment when you can get a second job or take a position that's 12 months. We're monitoring this government taxation, BDR, and economic development. That bill's not out yet. But did want to share some bills that the chamber is supportive of. As Mary Beth indicated, she testified in AB 184, which was sponsored by Speaker Firestone. And many of you saw the news today that the Speaker is recovering from prostate cancer surgery. So we wish him well wishes and a quick recovery. So he's actually out of the bill in the next few days and is expected to return on Monday. But this was a great bill that Mary Beth testified on, as she indicated on, and it creates a Lieutenant Governor's Office for Small Business Advocacy. And Mary Beth, I know in your testimony, you had shared with with the legislators that this is a great one-stop for our members and something the chamber's really been advocating for. Because I know you always get phone calls, Mary Beth, we'll get calls in GA and say, hey, I have a request out to Health and Human Services or the city planning. How can we get this quickly answered? And this really does consolidate to a one-stop shop where they will make inquiries on businesses' behalf about applications, requests. They will help you connect you to the right person in a different agency. They'll offer resource information, conference information, educational materials. So I know, Mary Beth, you thought this was a really great big step for our small business members. So it's something the chamber is actively supporting, and we look forward to its passage. And then this also was it yesterday, actually? Yesterday, Mary Beth testified on summer school, and this was a great bill. And I know, Mary Beth, you thought it was a great use of federal dollars because it would actually direct the school districts in the state to provide summer school for K through 12 students. And as Mary Beth testified in her hearing, it will allow 11th and 12th graders to catch up on credits they may be missing for graduation. Right, Mary Beth? And you thought it was really important for workforce development. Did you want to add any comments to that?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I think both of these bills are very positive. We want to thank Senator Marilyn Dondero-Loop and, of course, Speaker Frierson. Both of these bills we think are just extremely important, not only for education, but for workforce and helping our small businesses by giving them the resources that they need. And of course, assuming that both of these bills pass, there was a lot of positive testimony on behalf of these as well. So we'll have more information on these, especially as time gets closer and as they pass, hopefully.
Absolutely. And I think, Mary Beth, to your point, especially on AB 184, like we're saying, you get phone calls all the day. from members. I mean, I know you thought this was really important because it really helps problem solve a lot of those and streamlines the process, of course.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're constantly getting members calling us and asking for help on these things. So this will be a huge assistance to our members and non-members alike.
Absolutely. Then next, we're going to talk about a couple other bills we supported this week. I'm actually going to turn this one over to Dylan Keith, who's our analyst who testified on Senate Bill 165 yesterday. Dylan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Paul. So yeah, yesterday I testified on SB 165, which relates to esports. So what it does is it forms a commission in Nevada to provide a more legitimate space for esports gaming, to make sure that around the world they know that Las Vegas is ready for them, that we have rules and everything set up, and that it's regulated more than it already is. And it's just going to provide more support for that industry and bring in new tourism with a younger and a more diverse, different demographic from all around the world. People that might not normally visit Vegas will be joining us soon. And we really want to just also work towards diversifying our economy. And we really thought that this was a great bill to do all of those things. And we really wanted to thank Senator Kekeffer for bringing that forward.
Great, thanks, Dylan. And as he indicated, this is really important to our tourism trade. One of the bills we were talking to Mary Beth, behind the scenes about, of course, that she serves on the LVCVA. And Mary Beth, I know they're launching some new marketing efforts, and this is some of those areas they're going to focus on, correct?
Yeah, definitely. The LVCVA has launched a new marketing campaign and several new marketing campaigns. They're very excited about things that relate to tourism, of course, heads in beds. And then, of course, we're excited about yesterday's announcement regarding the return of the World of Concrete coming back as well. So those things all bode very, very well for Southern Nevada and the whole state.
No, and that's awesome news about World of Concrete. That sends a strong message that Nevada's back for convention tourism. That's great. Congratulations, Mary Beth. Next, we're going to turn over to Erica Valdez, who is helping us with our education bills this session. So Erica, I'm going to turn over to you on SB 202 and SB 120, which you're going to be testifying on just in a few hours from now on.
Yep. Thank you so much, Paul. So SB 202 involves, I guess, the language of coding, the coding language, and allowing it to be accredited for a foreign language in high schoolers. And so with the current shortage of computer science professionals, engineering professionals, product developers, software professionals, and system integrators, we believe the influx of coding in the classroom will help prep the students for real life situations and set them up for a strong transition into the workforce or to higher education. And yeah, so we believe that SB 202 will help our students, I guess, gain a better understanding of technology and how it's shaping our world and how to work with them. And this bill also emphasizes that the importance of investing in STEM initiatives. And then SB 128, I will be testifying on later today. It involves, I guess, the initiative of having a comprehensive review of our scholarship and grant recipients and its effectiveness of these higher education programs.
Great, thanks, Erica. And as she indicated, especially in the coding language, it's absolutely important to our economic development. As many of you know, the chamber's involved with workforce development and has launched some new initiatives in the past year with Mary Beth's leadership and Hugh Anderson, one of our trustees. So ties very well into what we're focusing on. Mary Beth, did you want to add anything to the workforce initiatives we're working on at the chamber?
Yeah, we're very excited about called the Southern Nevada Workforce Solutions Portal. It's headed up by Hugh Anderson, who is, as you mentioned, chair of our Government Affairs Committee. And it really is a solid solution that we feel fills an important gap in the state of Nevada that currently doesn't exist. So we're very excited, and we'll have more information very soon on that too.
Great, thanks, Mary Beth. So we'll move on to our next slides. We are, as I indicated, the bill deadline was rolled, as we call it. So there's still quite a few BDRs we're still waiting on. Several from Senator Canizero, several from Senator Neal. I was kind of joking, the majority leader, you think she would get her bills in first, but they haven't. So it shows you they don't discriminate back there when they do bill drafting. So we're waiting for those bills. We have some idea what the topics will be. pay equity, and right to return to work. And then Senator Neal's working on a digital goods tax, and we're waiting on a discriminatory practice bill also. We just got copies of a bill, SB 209, that revises pay time practices. As proposed in the current, an amendment that's going to be coming out shortly, it would direct that employers have to give employees 4 hours to go get vaccines. There's some other parts of the bill we're working through right now, and we'll keep members updated on that once the committee takes a position by Monday morning on the hearing. These are some of the other bills the chamber is opposing. We opposed yesterday AB 124, which enacts the Nevada Pay Equity Act. Just to clarify, the chamber supports pay equity and gender equity for for payment of salaries, of course. This bill would ban asking work history, which is a result of a ruling of Ninth Circuit Court ruling last year. Chamber's fine with that section of the bill, but when you enable and allow class action lawsuits from potential employees, that's a non-starter for the organization. So we are trying to take out some of the legal bite. We support the philosophy, and of course, on gender pay equity, this is a longstanding priority for the organization. Someone Torres has been very busy actually, so I'm going to have David give a quick update on Assembly Bill 161, and then we'll move into some other topics too.
Thank you, Paul. Assembly Bill 161 by Assemblywoman Torres is one of 2 bills that we're tracking currently dealing with the evictions process. Assemblywoman Torres's bill is a little more broad, just simply ending summary evictions. We had initially hoped that if we continue to work with our partners at the Realtors and the Apartment Association, we could amend Assemblyman Watts's bill, and that would be the focus on eviction-focused bills for the session. However, it does look like Assembly Bill 161 will at least get a hearing. We're in strong opposition. The ending of summary evictions will drastically increase the price of housing, especially entry-level market rate housing. That's a theme we're going to be seeing this session: housing affordability and affordable housing. So this is one of the bills that we're opposing dealing with that.
Thanks, David. And David's done a really great job in taking the lead on these housing issues with his background and working in the industry before he joined the chamber. And to David's point, the reason the chamber is getting involved in these comes down to affordable housing. So when you have these type of housing bills, and then you have bills running that will limit development on water and land use, you naturally then compound the price of housing. So that's why the chamber gets involved in these type of bills. We also dealt with yesterday and opposed AB 222, which is a employment practice bill specific to whistleblowers. Nevada state law, URI and NRS 6118 dictates protections for whistleblowers. Of course, we want employees to have to report things to OSHA if there's a problem they can't resolve with their employees, so they can feel safe in their companies. But however, though, when you shift the burden to employers to prove that they're not doing that, and the liability and recovery is only for employees, the chamber's opposed. I mean, the mechanics of the bill are too troublesome and an unfair playing advantage for employees versus employers. And then finally, AB 221 is a right to repair bill, and it's a huge concern to those companies that spend billions of dollars on research and development. So we are opposing that bill also. That has not been scheduled for a hearing yet, but it will be sometime soon. And then there are some other bills also just to share with the group. Leslie Cohen's natural gas regulations. We're still waiting for that one to come out. I'll turn it back over to David. He testified on a bill yesterday on AB 146 about water. So David, I'll turn it back over to you for a moment.
Assemblywoman Peters' AB 146 is a pretty expansive bill dealing with water quality and water degradation. It mainly is going to affect smaller water districts and groundwater basin governing bodies, as well as the mining industry. It's a very broad bill, and it wasn't drafted with a lot of consideration for some of the other federal and state water programs that are already in place, such as the Drinking Water Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Nevada Water Pollution Control Law. Without amendment, there's no determination on how this is going to interact with the current laws that are in place. And it also ignores a lot of the long-standing requirements concerning anti-degradation of groundwater, reinjection with mining. And it doesn't make a lot of the subtle distinctions between water sources, bodies of water, running water, and runoff. So it is as written, a problematic bill both for mining and local governments dealing with water. So for that reason, we were opposed.
Thanks, David. And we, of course, the chamber works very closely with the Southern Nevada Water Authority on these water bills. As the proprietor and deliveries of water comes from the agency, we work closely with them. Quickly, AB 246, and I have to stress this bill is extremely important to all employers in the state. This bill adds additional requirements onto employers regarding COVID-19, from notification to plans to liability. So this really is a workaround SB4, which secured business liability protection. So this bill will become a very hot topic in the building very quickly once it gets scheduled for a hearing. David, let's go back to you really quick on AB 141 on sealing of evictions from Assemblyman Watts.
So AB 141 is the original evictions bill that it was hoped that the apartment association and realtors would be able to work with Assemblyman Watts on to deal with pandemic related evictions. As it stands under the eviction moratorium, there is a process by which somebody who has lost their job or is facing financial hardship can legally get that freeze on residential evictions. However, realtors and apartments are dealing with a number of bad actors who are simply choosing to not pay under the assumption that they will be unable to be evicted. Now, what Assemblyman Watts's bill would do would be to seal all eviction records during the entirety of the declared emergency relating to the pandemic. The amendment that the realtors offered would have allowed the sealing of eviction records for anyone facing financial difficulty, not any other cause. Unfortunately, that amendment has not been accepted. So there is an impasse for now. However, we are working with our partners at Realtors and the Apartment Association to continue to push other options that would allow for the sealing of records for those who are facing financial hardship that is not their fault, but still weeding out the bad actors.
Thanks, David. And then finally, we're also dealing with AB 303. This deals with paid time practices also. It looks to modify the bill from last session, SB 312. If you set the standard of 40 hours a week for employees 50 or more, and if you're in a collective bargaining agreement, a contract or policy does more, then that supersedes the state law. This freshman member wants to exclude that, which actually was a portion brought forward by the unions. So that should become a pretty contentious bill, also pretty fast. And then just quickly, the chamber is continuing to oppose fiscal home rule bills from the city of Reno, 73 and SB 11. You ask, do you guys care about the city of Reno bill? If Reno gets it, then Las Vegas or Henderson or North Las Vegas gets it. Nevada is a Dillon rule state. We're not a fiscal home rule state. If you want to see what a fiscal home rule state is, look at California. I don't think anybody thinks local governments operate very well out there. And then Mary Beth indicated, of course, that the Chamber's legislative virtual day is April 6th. Registration is now available. Cox Communication is our presenting sponsor with support from Black & Wadhams, Boyd Gaming, Hightower Las Vegas, IGT, MV Energy, Porter Group, and Southwest Gas. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for Legislative Day on April 6th. We'll be meeting with the governor, Senator Majority Leader Nicole Canizero, Speaker Assembly Jason Fyerson, along with committee chairs and minority leadership. And finally, just as a follow-up to Mary Beth's comments, our DC FlyIn is back and for September this year. Registration is now available at vegaschamber.com. We are once again partnering with the LVGAA, and it will also be in person, but we're also going to have a virtual component for those folks who prefer to attend virtually. So check out vegaschamber.com for those registration and take early advantage for those early pricing today. So that is the summary of our call today. Of course, I want to thank the entire team and Mary Beth for her leadership. Dylan, let's see if we have any questions from any audience members today.
So I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. Folks, if you want to ask a question, please feel free to enter your questions at the question pane at the bottom, or even just click the hand raise button so we can get to you a little quicker.
Yes, Mary Beth.
Just to clarify too, I've been getting a lot of calls about the Washington, D.C. fly-in. People are really excited at the opportunity to go in person. And I just had a call this morning with Congressman Porter of the Porter Group, former congressman, and we were talking about our ability to gather and what rooms, we can gather in and things like that. And I see Erica shaking her head. So just to I guess, reassure the members who want to go. We are planning to go in person. You already said we'll have a virtual component as well for anybody who can't or doesn't want to. But Erica, I know you've been working very hard on securing locations in Washington, D.C. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing when you talk to folks and how it's going in securing locations?
Absolutely. So definitely when we're securing like locations, we especially going through like the pandemic, safety is our number one priority, and cleanliness. So a lot of the spaces that we're looking at definitely follows the rules of the CDC, but they also put in their, I guess, added safetiness into the areas. So everything is socially distanced, and keeping in mind of the events that we're doing, we are going to keep it open air and things like that. So nothing would compromise anything in our agendas.
Excellent. Thanks. Great work on that, Erica. And I really want to encourage folks to join us in DC in September. Thanks, Paul.
Absolutely. No, and I think Mary Beth, thanks for bringing that up. We're making sure, like Erica said, we're getting bigger rooms, more space. The gala will be more distance. Tables will be 5 instead of 10 tops. So we're absolutely taking precautions to ensure members feel safe and welcome back in the Capitol this year. Great. Well, I don't think we have any other questions, Dylan. But if we don't, we'll wrap it up for today. Of course, feel free to reach out to any of us. We're here to be a resource to you, our members. And if you have any questions for the Chamber Advocate Program, let Dylan know. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Mary Beth, thank you for always moderating. And we'll see everybody soon. Take care.